Hello everyone, I'm Savannah and I'm a therapist here at Health for Life Counseling who specializes working with individuals with trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. So one of the main tools that I use is called cognitive processing therapy, also known as CPT. CPT is a short-term evidence-based form of therapy specifically designed to help people with PTSD, typically within 12 to 18 sessions. Beyond its primary focus of PTSD, CPT can also address secondary conditions as well, such as anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and so on. Another component of CPT is cognitive processing therapy account, also known as CPTA. CPTA is completely optional and it involves writing a written account of the traumatic event if someone decides that the written account will help them process the trauma more effectively. CPT is effective for adolescents and adults who have been dealing with an early life trauma all the way to carrying the burden of trauma for decades. Those traumas can look like child abuse, sexual abuse, natural disasters, domestic violence, combat, and so on. You do not have to have experienced the event directly in order to have PTSD. So even witnessing a traumatic event or hearing about it can cause PTSD. So what is PTSD? PTSD is when an individual has an overactive amygdala, which is your emotion and your fear response, and there's a disconnect between the amygdala and the frontal lobe, which is your emotional regulation and reasoning. So an example that I like to use is you're crossing the street and you almost get hit by a car. So an individual without PTSD, their amygdala is going to respond because that is a fear response. However, your frontal lobe is going to kick in and help you regulate that and recognize, yes, that was a really scary situation, but I'm no longer in danger. An individual with PTSD, with that same experience, their amygdala is going to go off the same. However, because there is a disconnect between the amygdala and the frontal lobe is not going to activate and help regulate the amygdala. So that could leave an individual in a persistent state of hyperarousal and fear. So what CPT does is it bridges the gap between the amygdala and the frontal lobe to process trauma more adaptively. So how do we make this happen in sessions? So CPT involves the identification and resolution of stuck points, which are deeply ingrained negative beliefs that we typically develop during a traumatic event in order to justify or make sense of the traumatic experience. Stuck points can range from self-blame, such as I should have known better, it is my fault, all the way to the world is dangerous and I can't trust anyone. Even therapists have stuck points because at the end of the day, we are all human. So CPT examines and challenges these stuck points, ultimately leading to a resolution of the trauma and resolving PTSD. So why should you seek out CPT? So as mentioned earlier, CPT is short term, so it's typically 12 to 18 sessions, which is great for a lot of people because a lot of us lead very busy lives. CPT is also evidence-based, which makes it a reliable intervention. Studies also show that CPT has long-term benefits and sustained improvements in individuals. So CPT is not just a temporary fix, but a form of therapy that helps individuals reclaim their lives from the grips of PTSD. So if you are interested, you can reach out to Health for Life Counseling at 616-200-4433 or send us an email at hello@healthforlifegr.com, and we look forward to hearing from you.